So let's get started and don't lose too much time. All right, so this topic for today's session is how agents that actually work. That's the topic for today. Why am I qualified to speak about that? Because I have been building agents for the past year. My name is Ugur Koc. I'm a product manager at Lucania, and I'm an SSP in Germany. And as Patrick also mentioned, also an MVP for Security Copilot and Intune. Today's topics are a bit packed, and honestly, I tried to summarize the last, 3 to 6 months into 55 minutes, which is a huge deal. And it was pretty hard to put all of this in these slides. So we will definitely have a packed session. We don't only have slides ready, but also we will have a lot of live demos. And I really hope that the demo gods are really positive today and will help me out. We will look first into the Security AI platform. We will have a look into how agents really work and how they look like in the Defender portal. We will discuss the mental model behind these agents. We have an example scenario, and then I will go into how to build your own agents and which methods are available for each and every one. And I think that's pretty interesting because the methods that are available have the options that are available have been grown. We now have even a way for you to build your agent just using natural language, prompting your way, like you might know it from ChatGPT. So first and foremost, the Microsoft Security AI platform. As you can see in this picture, this is basically the architecture behind what we're talking today. In the core of this platform is Microsoft Sentinel with its data lake and graph and embeddings and the MCP server. And what's really cool about that is you have data connectors to more than 350 connectors. This is particularly important because you want as much context as more, not only say it's more is better, but you definitely want to have a context that does matter for your prompting and for your agent. So having these options to query external services is definitely worth it. And then on top of all of this are these typical Microsoft services, I would say the Microsoft Defender, Microsoft Entra, Intune, and obviously Purview. And then you also have the security store with all its agents, first party and third party. And the Security Copilot now really is the reasoning layer that kind of sits on top of this and helps you to reason on top of your context. So if you have the first party tools and then third party tools, it really helps you to gather the data and then reason and then answer your prompts. So Security Copilot agents combine large language model reasoning with connected security tools to execute defined objectives in a controlled workflow. This might sound a bit more complicated than it really is. So here's the first live demo. So let's hope it works. Let me see. All right. So currently, what I want to show you is how an agent practically works and how it would feel like and look like. And for that, I'm currently in the lab environment and I have an incident in the Security Defender XDR portal. Right. So here's a multi-stage incident involving persistence and privilege escalation involving. And I have an incident ID 215. That's important for a very particular agent that I want to show you. And to find these agents in the Defender portal, you can go and scroll down and find the agents options here, right in the sidebar menu. Clicking on it, you will find all the available agents. This will take a couple of seconds. Well, okay, it's there. I was prepared in the other tab to show the agent, but it worked. That's perfect. So this is a particular agent that me and my colleagues have been building, and this agent just needs one single input, which is the incident ID. And we built this agent to help security analysts to perform automatic, not remediations itself, but definitely help you analyze quicker and respond faster to incidents in your environment. So if this agent runs, just click on it, and then it will tell you that it's now calling all the different services that are mentioned in the plugins here. And don't worry, this might sound a bit complicated and too much, I will go through every single step here later on. I just want to give you a view on how the agent runs and looks like, right? So this agent is able to query data from these plugins here. And in this case, it will call the Defender XDR. This is the agent itself. Then there's a showdown, threat intelligence, a hash lookup, and the entry ID, obviously. And the cool thing is, as soon as the agent runs, you can click on this View Activity button here, and then you can drill down really what kind of calls it is doing to these services. Hope it shows in a second. It's doing a lot right now. Perfect. Error loading. Let me refresh the page. Yeah, live demos are a bit dangerous, honestly. So let's see if it loads now. Come on. All right, it didn't show up, so I will just use a run that I did earlier. View activity again. Hope this one shows up. So if this agent runs, it gives you a response, a result based on the prompt. As you could see, the prompt was just the incident ID. The incident ID was visible on the Defender. And in this case, the agent, what it does is it creates a executive summary, the detailed timeline of the events. Come on, the activity is not showing up, sadly. Yeah, flowcharts, user information and details, and so on and so forth. And it also gives you persistent techniques, the very, very deep dive analysis of that specific incident with that ID, and including remediations and recommendations how to handle this issue right now, right? So this is how an agent would look like. And normally you would see, well, I can just tell you, normally you would see, if this would have loaded, an activity chart where you can see cards, and these cards are connected with each other, and they just show how they are connected, and depending on each other, the agent runs. It calls entry ID, gets the user details, device details for the assets that are involved in the incident ID, and then it will query showdown, it will query the hash lookup, and everything else. So that would have normally shown here. This didn't happen in this case, which is okay. Just go ahead, because we have a lot of more things to show you today. We are. So, I mean, you could see the agent and the response. And now what's really interesting, and that's main topic for today, is what is an agent? An agent is basically a very just an overview, like from perspective, from looking from outside of it, it's just a YAML file. You basically just pre-configure skills and plugins and have a system prompt that just says, hey, you have to do these steps, and then give me a response with that structure and format it in a way that looks good and people can use that output and work with it, right? So you have instructions, you have the skills, and you obviously have the triggers as well. In that agent run that I just did, I triggered it manually by inputting a incident ID. There are agents that you can schedule, and it definitely makes sense to have these agents based on your needs and use cases to just automate processes. So what happens when the agent runs? Depending on the agent that you have, obviously, this can be very different from the agents that I just showed. The agent will analyze the user input. It will always follow your system instructions, and the system instructions, we will go deeper in that later on. But let me just tell you that the system instructions, that's something that I learned the hard way, because the first iterations of these agents that we built were not reliable enough in their way of how they output things. When you run an agent 2 times and 3 times, you expect the same kind of result and quality. So, but all of the results depends on how you structure and define your system instructions. These system instructions are basically your guardrails. You define everything in there, how the AI model should respond and read the context. And then also in the agent will then just call tools and the plugins. In the case that we had previously, it called Entra ID, Defender XDR, and other third-party services. It will query them. It will, depending on what you are querying for, can also run KQL queries, call external APIs, and then it will output the response in a way that you have pre-configured how you want it. It can be a table, it can be just bullet points, it can be just text block, whatever you need in that case. So Security Copilot agents combine large language model reasoning with connected tools to execute defined objectives in a controlled workflow. The model behind these agents, there are 4 things that we should definitely be mind of. The first one is the objective. So when you build or think about an agent is very good in executing tasks that are repetitive. So if you are having a security team in your environment, there are, and I'm very sure that everyone has them, there are processes and user flows and things that your colleagues are doing day by day. The way, how do you handle incidents, isolating devices? There are obviously many other ways as possible also, but you always have things that can be automated. So you have an objective. You try to automate a specific process. You give it an instruction, and the instruction is not only system instruction that I just talked about the guardrails of how an agent will react, but it's also about that the agent will always do the same thing. So it doesn't matter who uses this agent, who runs the agent in your environment, it will always do the same thing independently, who executed it, and what's the environment the agent is currently in, right? So the quality is always the same, and it definitely helps upskilling your level 1 admins in your environment as well to have the same quality of response. Obviously, tools and plugins, just talked about it. Enabling them will be, the agent will be able to connect through these services. And then validation, that's also very important. That's also why I'm very opinionated on this topic, how you create an agent. I am not a developer per se, but I am kind of a agent developer, and I like to do things in a way that I can iterate with versioning. And validation helps a lot, because if you run an agent, like you might know from ChatGPT or other LLM models, you have a session chat where you can see from like every task that the agent does, it will show you what it really does, and then you can drill down and see which services have been called, what the response was like, and then iterate on that and validate the responses. Because I don't expect anyone here from the attendees, and I can't do it myself also, is to one-shot a perfect agent. That will never happen, I guess, and every environment is different. So you definitely want to validate the responses on your agent. So we just saw a realistic scenario from our lab environment, obviously, but the reason why I started building these agents for my colleagues is we wanted to have a quicker way to respond to incidents, right? So in the bottom, as you can see, so the defender discovers any incidents. You want to be able to quickly resolve an incident, right? How much time do you need? Normally, traditionally, you would have to analyze the incident from top to bottom, look at all the assets and analyze really every step to understand it. And then if you have tens or hundreds of incidents per day, can be false positive. You don't know that before you have to analyze it and understand the incident. A lot of these things can be automated, and our goal was to have a very quick way, like a couple of minutes, to get to an outcome that makes us basically happy, right? And there are 3 methods how you can build an agent. And this slide is something that I built specifically for everyone to take or be able to take screenshots from if they want to, because these are the three main ways of building an agent. There is a fourth way of building an agent with the Sentinel MCP, if anyone is aware of that. There's a very well-written documentation by Microsoft in the Microsoft Learn docs where you can look into it. But these three things are the main available options currently in the portal. I would say the natural language to agent method is from the friction is very low. You don't have to be an encoder. You have to just prompt it in a way that you have a use case or an idea how you would create an agent. You just prompt it and it will get out and build you an agent that I would say is an alpha or beta version, and then you just iterate, validate, and then it gets to a point where it's usable. Then there's the agent builder UI. If you don't like to prompt and you have knowledge in the area, right? It doesn't have to be security domain knowledge. The agents can also be built for Intune and Purview and Entra. It could be any service basically, because one thing is very important is because of this platform, the Security Copilot is basically built on, is there's no data silos. So you can access every single resource and service out there, first party or third party. And so you don't need only security domain knowledge. You can also just build an agent that is relevant for you as an Intune admin or Purview admin. But I would say this is a bit more complicated because you have to configure a lot of things manually, which I will show you later on. And then the last but not least is the YAML manifest, and the last one would be Sentinel MCP. I'm a huge fan of the YAML manifest. This was the very first method that we started building agents 1 year ago with the there was a VS Code extension. I think there's still one, and we basically built an agent factory. It worked very well. We built like 14 agents, a lot of fun, a lot of use cases where we were able to automate things. And but this is really hard, I guess, for someone that is not has not a deep understanding and knowledge of that agent and how these files are built, because they have a very strict schema. And if you don't follow the schema, they will fail to deploy. And then you have to iterate and fix them, right? So one thing that you could do if you are just getting started is you basically can start with the natural language to agent method. It creates you the YAML manifest file in a way that it works, so the schema is correct. And then you just copy out the schema locally and then build on top of that if you want to. You can also iterate with Copilot inside the portal as well. Yeah, so let's get deeper into the topic of natural language to agents. It provides the fastest path from idea to working agent suitable for initial drafting and discovery. I think we should switch to the terminal portal again. I hope I don't have issues now. There it is. All right, so a couple of things. I installed Zoom just for this session. So at the top, as you can see here, the URL is securitycopilot.microsoft.com. Obviously, I'm not covering things like, currently I'm not covering things like SCUs and how to get started from zero. This is very well documented by Microsoft. My focus is strictly on how do you build an agent and how you run it. And one thing that we are trying to do right now is we will prompt our agent. That's the natural language to agent method. And then you have your agent builder UI, which is start from scratch. And then my personal favorite, but that's just me, is upload a YAML manifest after you created one yourself locally. All right, so one thing or one resource that I want to give you all is a couple of, I would say, open source agents. The website is called agentsforadmins.com. And if you visit the page, you will see I think it's nine agents in total and different services, and we will pick just one agent. And if you visit the page, you will obviously see some overview, the content of the agent. That's the YAML file, by the way. You just could copy it or download the agent and upload it. But what we'll do is we will look into the GitHub repository of this page. And you will find a couple of files per agent in there. And these are important because you will also find the prompt that I used to create this specific agent. And as you can see, this prompt is very long. And the reason is if you prompt, it really like the output of that natural language to agent builder functionality in the portal really depends on your way on things that you're inputting, and then it will output better things if your input is better, right? So what I did, I was very specific in the way how I wanted the agent to be and work like, and I iterated on that with different models and get to a point where I was happy. And then I can just, and you can do that also, that's just open source. You can just copy and paste this prompt. And as you can see, there's a lot of things here. And one thing that was important for me is I talked a lot about plugins and skills, and I will also show that in the portal. But for the prompt specifically, the UI builder in the portal is very good in working with first-party plugins and tools. You obviously can also add your own toolings and skills in there, but the outcome was very good when it used just the first-party and not the third-party plugins. So let's just copy it and then switch over to the Security Copilot portal, and then copy and paste it in here, and then click on this one. And as you can see, it will now run the Security Copilot prompting. It will now generate your agent and all the configurations for you. This will take a bit. Yep, there it is. So it's now done creating the agent for me. And this is where it can be a bit more complicated if you're just getting started with agents. So the agent creator or the builder functionality in the portal just created the agent for me. And what it did is it created the agent display name for me. I can obviously just change it if I want to. That's up to me. There's agent description. There's instructions for the agent, which, as you can see, is a long list of things. And it also, as I just talked about, the instructions are very important. This is fundamental for the quality of the output of your agents. And in the inputs, it also puts one thing as the required input, which is query. It will with a description in here. And now to the tools. Again, these are all first-party tools. As you can see, it found out that depending on my prompt and the things that I wanted to do, it matched the prompt with the skills and tools that are available natively. So in this way here, it found out, hey, a couple of Entra plugins, Entra skill for graph queries, which is very interesting. If you are starting building agents, graph is your best friend. Audit log details. We have a couple of things regarding purview, identity risk management, risky users, and so on and so forth, right? So this is basically the UI. If you click on any of these tools, you get a bit more details on the parameters, how they work, description, name, whatsoever. With this click on the top, view code, you can basically look at the YAML file. You can download it, you can edit things manually, but this is basically the complete agent. And as you can see, it's not a lot and it's not that complicated, but it definitely helps letting the AI do it, because then the schema is correct and you can work on something where the base fundamentals are already working and are correct. If you're happy and you think you're ready to ship, click on publish, and then you can change the scope. In my test environment, it's enough when I just publish the agent for myself only. If you have an agent that is useful for your team, for your colleagues, you would publish it for the workspace that where everyone is part and member of. So let's publish it. And the cool thing is that's part of the validation is you just published it, and now you can also test it out. So one thing that it requested by the agent itself, one thing was required, it's the query. So the GitHub repository also has a file called test, and it gives you an idea of how you can test your agent. So I can just copy and paste this query, which is identify all risky users from the last 30 days and provide remediation recommendations with risk scores, right? Could be a cool prompt and things to test out. Copy and paste the query, and then click on run test, and then hopefully it will work. Okay. The demo gods are not with me today. Okay, I just clicked on refresh. Just know if you click on refresh, you basically use that session. What I can do, because I already have the YAML file of that agent, I can just click on uploading the YAML file, and here it is again. Click on publish, myself only, publish, go to test, query, copy and paste it again, see if it works now. My heart beats like crazy right now. Come on, do something. All right, it does something. It gets out and calls the tools right now. So let me show the session in detail. If you want to validate it, the best way to do it is if you go into the session itself. And if I scroll fast enough, okay, this is the session that this agent just worked on. And you can see all the steps it took and all the skills it called to use and provide more context for the agent. So look at if you have a misconfigured agent or skills that maybe do not work, you will see errors here, and then you can pinpoint and then work on them and fix these skills itself. Most of the time, if you have issues, it's more related to skills that might not reasons, but you will definitely see the error code in these logs as well. As you can see, they're very detailed in which skill is used and enabled, and then it will give you an output. So that could be our very first agent. Normally, when I create it, I would not be done right now. I would normally go in and iterate on that because I'm overlooking the response. I'm not that happy currently with the way it put out things. But we are not doing it in this session because it will take a bit more time. All right, let me switch to the slides. There we go. All right, so what we just did is we basically described the mental model. If you just remember that, we gave it an objective using natural language. The Security Copilot just interprets your prompt. Again, it is very important that your input is good enough, and then it will create an agent that is useful. Otherwise, you would have to iterate on that again and again and again. And then as you could also see, the YAML file was generated automatically. The schema was correct. And yeah, that's basically it. Oh, that was a demo. The website is called agentsforadmins.com, is available for you right now. And also the GitHub repository is linked on that website. Yeah, and as you can see, also things that can be automated, and I will show you later how I basically wipe code agents in a different way, is things that I'm asking myself and the agent and the quality of it are these things here, right? So I want to understand which decisions the agent did make to understand how it generated or how it came up to that response. And then I will be able to fix the prompting, fix the skills, and then go on and iterate on that. Also, one thing that's very important is sometimes, so the agents that you might want to create could be a very easy use case. So you might only have like 2 or 3 skills or tools for that agent that it uses. But from my experience and what I saw in my own agents are sometimes you end up with like 20 skills. And at that point, you definitely want to understand if every skill was called and every skill was used, and then if the context was completely called, and then the agent was able to reason about all the context. Definitely takes some time to understand all the dependencies between these things, but it's definitely well worth it if you want to automate your processes. Yeah, a couple of things that are available natively are the first-party plugins, things that have been added. There are a lot of tools and plugins that have been added in the last couple of months, especially the MCP category was filled up. We have the Sentinel, MCP Sentinel available as well. So a lot of options, a lot of, I would say, power in your hands to call every services that you want and be very strict and validate your input and output that way. Obviously, Defender XDR, Threat Intelligence, Sentinel is integrated, Entra, Intune, Purview is integrated. One thing that I used a lot was natural language to KQL. And although I'm not looking at the questions right now in the chat, I think that some of you might have one question is, how many SUs does the agent use, right? And it really depends on how you configure your agent and how you use or call the services. There are multiple ways. One thing is natural language to KQL. So you basically have a skill that is called NL to KQL, which creates a KQL query out of your input and then queries, for example, advanced hunting if you have something in Defender, right? But there are also options where you can Graph API. So if you know how to use Graph API and filter down, you can speed up the process a lot if you really know what you filter for. And then if these agents have less context and are faster in executing, less SCUs will be used for that agent run. I specifically switched from KQL to Graph API in some cases where the agent just took a lot of time to query everything with KQL. All right, let's switch to the next topic, which is Agent Builder provides a controlled environment to design, test, and iterate agents before deployment. First, this slide definitely makes sense to understand a bit of the context around the second method. As you could see just previously is the details around the agent and all the tools were applied automatically. So everything was already there. You just had to publish and test it. That's it. And if you build it your own from scratch, you have to fill out these informations yourself. There are cases that definitely make sense if you have a very specific use case for your environment that is a valid use case, and then you want to build an agent. The agent builder option that we just saw might not be able to give you an output that makes you happy. So in that case, you would have to build it from scratch. In that case, you have to fill out the details, the instructions, you have to define and require inputs, the tools, and then automations if you want to trigger it, schedule, or manually run the agent. As you could also see, this is the same case for this one. Clicking on publish, you can just test it out and verify that it works. And I think on the next slide, we will look into the demo. I think we are very well on time right now. All right, let's see.
Yes, we're great on time.
Perfect, thank you. So next option that we're looking at is this one, which is start from scratch. So clicking on it, as you can see, there's nothing in here. So I can just type in something. Oops, want to test. Could be a I don't know, phishing agent. Could be something else. Instructions, right? Depending on what you're building on. The input, you define an input. An input could be, and the very first example that I showed is, it could be an incident ID. So incident ID. It could also be a query. A query is basically a user input, natural language. And then you can also select the tools and also create a tool. So these are the tools available right now. And as you can see, there are a lot of tools here. And you can also select them and put it in there for your specific agent. This requires, I would say, a lot of more knowledge. Let me see if I can. Yeah, for example, this one is very good in using the MCP server for Sentinel. Executing KQL queries, for example, is something that I use a lot in my agents. But as you can see, you can also just select any other here. You can also create your own tool if you want to. You have options to create a GPT KQL skill. GPT skill is basically using the OpenAI models. In this case, it's the GPT 4.1, which is enough. And then you just click on input a prompt for that model, and then it will, if the tool is being called by the overlaying agent, it will run and execute the query that you put in here, in that phase. One thing that I also really like is the KQL skill. Let me also show and look at this thing, because this one is pre-prepared by me right before the session. I created a tool called Reasoning, just reasons about the use cases of DLL files and analyze the publishers. Inputs could be a DLL name of DLL. And then obviously you could also put a prompt in here. What's more interesting is, and I think that's definitely important or available in every environment, is KQL queries executing on Defender, Sentinel, Custo, or Log Analytics. So we have every option that's relevant here available. If you have Defender, for example, you can just input a query. And this query is also, I mean, there are a lot of resources for KQL queries, obviously. But in this case, I just copy and pasted it from kqlsearch.com and then just input it here. And when this skill will be called by the agent, it will run the KQL query fully automated in the Defender environment. So as you can see, a lot of automations in here, and I love automation because it requires me doing less, which ends up doing even more at some point. But I think you get the idea of automating these things here in these agents with these agents. I think I should show one more, is if you create the agent in here, the instructions are important. And as you can see in this example that I created, this is the instruction. All of this is the instruction. And for the instruction is very important. It's kind of a guardrail for your agent. It will follow up from top to bottom to call these skills. But it's very important to also tell the agent what not to do. And that was something that made me very happy, is when I just started using instructions that were a bit not including things that it should not do, but only should do. It fantasized things. The output wasn't that good. And if you start to tell them things that it should not do, it's better in the quality of response it gets. And as you can see, there's a lot of instructions in here. Again, you can look at it in detail if you want to after this session as well. Yeah, I mean, I want to highlight that even more is the instructions should be as long as this one or even longer to get a more high quality agent out of it. Okay, so that was the second method. Let's go into a bit more detail about this one. Let's see, here it is. All right, so this was just the example from before. This was actually just backup slides, so I have something to show if the demos don't work. One thing that is very important if you use the agent builder, and let me actually go out of this screen and show you the portal again, because this is something I missed to show. Let me see. If you create, we are perfect on time, so I can do that. If you are prompting it again, so I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, but I want to show you this one because that's important. Let me just pick the same thing, copy the prompt. Let me see if this is the one. Yeah, copy paste, and now it will create the agent. That was still the first method that I showed, but I wanted to show you how to iterate in the portal itself. You don't have to download the YAML file, you can just use Security Copilot itself. We will just wait until it finishes creating the agent. There it is, EU agent configuration. And then on the right side, I told you to skip that because I myself don't use it a lot, but you could also help, like let the Security Copilot help you refine the agent if you want to prompt it and ask it to fix things or remove or add new tools or make your instructions better. You could do that in here. So that's definitely available. That's one thing that I wanted to show you before I forget that, because that is definitely important for iterating. If you are new to building agents, I definitely recommend you using it. It definitely helps you to fix things, add things, and then just also you can also ask it if the agent makes sense in a way that it analyzes the available response and the instructions and gives you feedback on how you can make the instructions even better and achieve a better response for the agent. Iterations in itself, we looked in the plugins testing. Again, if you want to iterate, best way is to, if you're new, use Security Copilot, but also have a look into the session details itself, and then look how the agents or plugins and tools are being called. For the validations, if I build an agent, and that's something that I learned also, is I deploy these agents as available only to me, not for the workspace. So I'd like to run the agent in my, like testing it on my own before I deploy it and make it available for the team. Definitely makes sense to validate it also with real data in some cases, because you might have a lab that doesn't have these data available or you miss something. And what is also important is depending on the size of your infrastructure and environment and the number of identities and devices, users and groups, it might be the quality definitely is different in for smaller and bigger enterprises because the context is larger. So even if you test it in your lab, it could be very well different in other environments. That's just something that you have to be mindful of. There's something that is very interesting. There's an option called auto tune, and it helps you to optimize instructions. And as you can see, instructions are definitely the core of the agents, and the Microsoft team definitely helps you with this auto tune feature to optimize these instructions. Troubleshooting, I think I will summarize it up. As you could see, just look in the session itself, understand what it does and where it fails. It will tell you why it failed and what service it could not query. Most of the time, it's because a skill wasn't able to execute. All right, so let's look into the third method. That's my favorite. And let me actually move my, wait, let me actually show you the portal first, because I did something very quickly, because this one thing didn't work very well. Let me see. All right, we can just use this tab. It's not that important. All right, so we have this, where is it? This option here, right on the bottom right side, is we can upload a YAML manifest file. So either you look into the website, where is it? Agents for admins. You can just download the agent, which is just the YAML file. And then if you go back, you can click on the upload button and then click on the agent that you just downloaded, and there it is. That's the way. So my agents are all on GitHub. The ones that are open source are available on the agentsforadmins.com GitHub page. What I did for this example is I just pulled the resources into a local file. So these are all the agents that are on GitHub. And what I really like to do is use GitHub Copilot on top of that. So a lot of AI, using AI to create AI agents, like an Inception. So if you want to create an agent, something that I really like to do is just tell it to, either you have a very specific idea of an agent or use case that you have. I will just do an example is, look, I don't know is it visible well, good enough for everyone? I hope so.
I think you're good.
Yeah, perfect. I see a couple of thumbs up. That's nice. Thank you. So I will just prompt it and say, hey, look at the Entra folder and the agents in there. I want you to create a list of, or create 2 new agent ideas. And this might sound like it's a bit boring and, just called MCP servers. Not that important right now, but the idea here why I asked this question is the GitHub Copilot and every other model, it could be Codex, it could also be Cloud Code, is to give it more context around it. So by asking this question, it now it reads all the files in this Entra folder here and all the agent files. It understands the structure and things that I want from it, and then gives me an idea of 1 or 2 agents, right? Just for this demo. I hope it is fast enough. And then after that, I can just prompt it to create that agent, and it will create the agent with the same YAML schema that it was able to get the context from. And it updates agents for some reason. I don't know why. I hope I still. It creates an agent automatically. That's fantastic, I guess. Okay, so it did create an agent. Did I prompt it wrong? I want you to create new agent. Okay, maybe the input was not that good for me, honestly. But it did create me 2 agents. Well, we can just use them. So it created a conditional access policy drift agent, right? So, and as you can see, the instructions are here, not that long, to be honest, but this is something that I can definitely work with, and it definitely respected the schema that all the other agents have. Let's see how far it is, but we can go ahead and do the same thing. Go to the build option, click on the upload file. Let me actually go to that folder. I was a bit surprised by it creating the agent right away. So the conditional access policy drift agent is in here. That's the YAML file, uploaded, and everything is in here. I can just click on publish and then test it out. So that's how easy it is basically to create it. And to summarize these three methods, I would say definitely give this option here, and like give this a shot. Just try it out just by prompting it. The prompt doesn't have to be like 500 characters, but you can just test it out. But I also just would recommend you to use the GitHub with the all available agents here. Just pull them locally and play around with GitHub Copilot and create new agents out of there. I think it's very handy, very easy. A lot of things are very automated. It created even a second agent here. Yeah. So for me, the second task here would be to run it in my lab environment, test it out if it makes sense. In this case, I will skip that because of the time available. All right. Yep, we just looked at the third method. That was the demo. I think we have a couple of minutes left. So closing thoughts. One of the issues there with these agents that I saw is the quality of the agent is very different in a way. Like I highlighted again, input, output. The input is very important, so the output is good enough. And if the agent is not good enough, people tend to not trust the response. I, for myself, I'm honestly trying to iterate, and I think it takes like 10 or 20 times to get to a result that makes me happy and that definitely fulfills the use case. So definitely don't stop trying out and building these agents. I think they're well worth it to try it out because they help you automate a lot. Grounding, use these system instructions, help the agent help you. If you instruct it better, more granular, it gives you a better response at the end. The toolings and plugins, I tend to use a lot of tools and plugins in my agents because I want more relevant context depending on the use case and task that I want to automate. But I definitely tend to use a bit more maybe than normally would be, would be important. And then the YAML file itself, if you have a team building around these agents, having them in an internal GitHub repository in your organization definitely helps others to understand how these agents works. And it also definitely helps, and what I learned from my colleagues is how they are building agents and how I can learn from them how to build certain skills and plugins for my agents, so that they definitely help you review other agents, but also if you iterate and create a version 1.1 or maybe a 2.0, it definitely also helps with versioning, and then you can also look into how the older agents worked. All right, I think that's it. Let me show you this one. That's basically my last slide.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's a lot of useful information. I don't think we have a ton of time for some live Q&A, but I did want to ask, where can people find you outside of here? Is there anything you'd like to plug as far as your socials?
Yeah, so because we don't have that much time, I guess there are a lot of questions by people right now. Is if you have questions or want to reach out to me, the best way is on LinkedIn. I'm available there best, and just message me. Yeah.
No, thanks. I really appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and close out. It was a real pleasure having you here today. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming. We will see you in our next session.